In a world where creepypastas are deleted before you can say Jeff the Killer, only one man can save them from a fate worse than death. Behold, Umbi's World presents Deleted Creepypasta Theater.
One of Disney's most famous rides is Expedition Everest in the Animal Kingdom. No one who knows Disney World can deny this. It features a giant artificial mountain surrounded by realistic Indian/Nepalese buildings and museums. It also has the biggest animatronic Disney has ever made, the Yeti, a 30-foot tall creature that hangs at the top of a cave toward the end of the ride. It roars and swipes at you with aggression and pure anger. This has gone down in history as Disney's most thrilling ride and is a favorite for most visitors. However, the ride we all know was not the original ride. I was one of the few who got to ride the Real Expedition Everest back in its first days in January of 2005. You were all told it opened in 2006, but that was the version that stands today. After several complaints about the original ride, Disney spent over a year refurbishing and fixing it. This is what the original ride was, and is an experience I will never forget. I went to the Animal Kingdom in 2006, and happily found out that the ride Expedition Everest had finally opened. Being that it was early in the morning, and there was hardly anyone around, I went on it immediately. The waiting area was fantastic. I really felt like I was at the Himalayas with the queue's impressive Indian architecture and the convincing Yeti Museum. To this day, this has not changed. It's the ride that is different. I boarded the train car, and we took off slowly through the bamboo forest, which we moved through it with swiftness and grace. Everything was peaceful, with animal sounds were playing in the background, and the smoothness and comfort of the ride and the fresh smell of nature. This is where everything took a dark turn. You know that part where you go up the first incline and go through the small overhead with the mural of the Yeti killing the natives and the artifacts surrounding you? This is not what we saw! After going through the peaceful bamboo forest, we saw a native's corpse stuck on the bamboo and covered in blood, with a loud roar in the background. The train immediately bolts up the side of the mountain and makes a sharp dip before going through a lighted cave, and the car slows down. We pass through more mutilated natives with blood surrounding us everywhere. Not only that, their intestines hung everywhere, and the bodies and skeletons were plopped all over the place, and some even hanging from the roof. As we neared the exit, a bloody native with his still connected heart in his hand jumps out at us and screams in agony while his heart beats rapidly. Blood! Spraying at us, which of course was only water. However, this sight still made me nearly vomit right then and there, but it was knocked out of my system when another loud roar was heard nearby, and the car again launches us out of the cave at about 50 miles per hour, and we are propelled through both sunlight and pitch-black caves before coming up to famous broken tracks. This next part still remains today. As any first-time rider would assume, the buildings had not finished and the ride wasn't ready for public use. After what I just saw in the previous cave, part of me was relieved, but another part of me was disappointed. That is, until we were launched backwards at great speed, past where we came from, and were launched into total darkness while still going backwards. This was so much fun, and I loved it! After about 15 seconds of this, we backed into a cave with a glowing blue light above us. A silhouette appeared out of the right side and let out a familiar roar. This was him, the Yeti! He roared to the left side and grabbed hold of the track he was standing on, which broke. That explains a lot. After this, we moved forward fairly quickly towards an opening that beamed with sunlight. This is where everything turns completely different from what is there today. As we move briskly towards the opening, a beastly ape-like head pokes its head down from the ceiling and roars extremely loud at us, and brings its head up as we got close and we began to pick up speed. An arm that could be described the same as the head comes down quickly and thrashes towards us before we bolt out the opening. This is where everything goes completely nuts. As we launched into sunlight, we barreled down at 75 degrees, and we did a complete cobra roll and a corkscrew while still in midair and at a 70 degree before going into a small opening, and where we're met with another ape-like creature, but can this time see his full body. This guy was huge! I mean, like 50 freaking feet tall. We got within mere inches of it before dropping down at full 85 degrees.
85 degrees!
That's my estimate. Is it even possible to have a ride that has an 85-degree drop? Well, obviously. Anyway, I'm on the edge of throwing up all over this hell mountain as the car zooms at a good 65 miles per hour through more hanging bodies and even severed heads, scaring the urine out of me. I saw sunlight again and prayed that this was the end. Oh no, definitely not. We took another very sharp turn and zoomed through complete darkness and see the creature hanging from the roof and take a swipe at us. We continue our trip through the Splatterhorn and all of a sudden stop. Just completely stop. What's going on? I remembered desperately asking to myself. Before long, we propelled backwards again into a cave that was partially lit with cracks in the rock walls. We must have backed onto a turntable because we began to turn around to the opposite side, which was shrouded in darkness. There he was again. The behemoth was even taller than before and crouched all the way down and put its face probably about 2 inches from our faces and let out a deafening roar. So loud my hands couldn't even protect my ears from it. Thankfully, we rocketed right underneath it and did yet another 85-degree drop, but into sunlight, and after making several sharp turns, finally made it back to the station. After we arrived back, I distinctly remember no one getting out of the car. We were all frozen and shocked with both fear and confusion. It was probably a good 5 minutes before I got out. I couldn't walk because I was so shaken by what I had just witnessed. I just decided to call it a day and went back to my hotel room and just laid on my bed for hours, horrified by what I was just on. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I couldn't even think clearly because my mind was flooded with questions like, what the hell? I didn't do anything for the rest of the day and figured that I would hit the next park tomorrow after I sleep the feelings away. That was not what happened. That stupid ride haunted my dreams, poisoning it with images of a blood-covered Yeti and Mickey holding the heads of Nepalese natives and cackling maniacally in a robotic tone. I woke up at 3 in the morning and refused to go back to sleep. I eventually just decided to pack up and get as far away from this place as possible. After packing for a good 30 minutes, I succumbed to my drowsiness and went back to sleep and woke up about 8. Having already packed, I just decided to kill time by seeing what was on TV. I flicked through the stations and stopped at ABC News' Good Morning America. I watched that for about the next hour with nothing really exciting going on, until the topic line came up. Disney's new amusement ride is anything but amusing. This piqued my interest, and I continued watching for after the commercial break to see if it was the same ride. Turns out,
it was.
Many of the riders complained to Disney employees about it. No surprise. I would have too if I could even think properly. Many symptoms of people riding were vomiting, unconsciousness, fainting, and even heart attacks. Some riders even died while on there from the stress and fear it caused them. Yes, this all happened in one day. Disney immediately closed the ride and did refurbishing on it for over a year before reopening a much more toned-down one. By this time, I've developed a heart condition because of that demonic mountain and have regular therapy lessons ever since. Since I refused to go anywhere near those hellish parks, I looked up footage of the new ride on YouTube. Compared to what I went through, this was a kiddie ride. While on the subject of Everest and the internet, I decided to Google the version I was on. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No news report, no footage, no information whatsoever. I was really mad. It was almost as if Disney was trying to cover this up and would do whatever they could to make sure of this.